Doesn't it drive you crazy that some people or companies succeed no matter how good or bad their product is? They release a horrible song and it makes millions. They publish an average book and it becomes a bestseller. You, on the other hand, put a massive amount of work into creating a fantastic product and your results are just mediocre. This is all because of the hidden assets, and this is what this video is about. If you are new to this channel, my name is Mariusz Konieczny, and I run Microcap Explosions, a website dedicated to microcap investments, which are pretty much hated and ignored by the investment community. I also published about 10 books on investing, one of which is available for a free download at microcapexplosions.com, so make sure you get yourself a copy. When I say assets, what comes to mind is cash, accounts receivable, inventory, prepaid expenses, or fixed assets. That's what you see on the balance sheet, right? But what about hidden assets? What about assets that actually don't show up on the balance sheet but are very, very important? Let me give you an example. Picture a situation where I am launching a new swimsuit line, and Kim Kardashian is also launching the same swimsuit line, okay? And we are hiring the same designers, the same people that sew it, the same marketing people. We're hiring the same people. Everything is the same. And we're spending the same amount of money, okay? Let's say we're going to spend $100,000 to launch a new swimsuit line. Who do you think is going to have more sales? Who do you think is going to have more returns on the efforts? In other words, who do you think is going to have more returns, more profits on that $100,000 investment? It doesn't take a genius to realize that Kim Kardashian would crash me, okay? And if you saw all of these money, the cash invested into the fabric, into the design, into the research and development, the balance sheet would look exactly the same. Yet, the income statement would show completely different results. Why? Because of the hidden asset. And that asset wouldn't show up on the balance sheet. And what kind of hidden asset does Kim have that I don't have? Or maybe what kind of hidden asset does she have more of that I don't? And that's a status and followers. We don't think of her followers, millions of followers on social media. We don't think of this as an asset. Yet, this would be the number one determining factor why her enterprise would succeed over mine, even though we would put the same amount of work, the same amount of resources into the project. There are other examples of hidden assets. For example, when I was in commercial real estate and I was, becoming a broker, selling commercial real estate across the Midwest, what I noticed that before we were allowed to make phone calls to potential clients, every single new person was required to build a database of owners before you can go out and start knocking on doors. And what the database was, every single person had to build an inventory of, let's say, 2,000 apartment buildings in a particular area and research who owned those buildings. So it was a database of properties and owners and phone numbers and emails and all that. And the company gave us resources to do that. But the company didn't allow you to make any sales efforts until you had your database. That database was a hidden asset. It was an asset because with this database, you constantly contact your database in order to solicit business. Now, the better the database was, the better you worked the database, the better results you got on your efforts. Brand is a fantastic asset that doesn't show up on the balance sheet. It might show up in a balance sheet if a company acquires a company and then the purchase price is more than what the accountants can assign to the hard assets or very easily identifiable assets. And then whatever the difference is goodwill. And that goodwill does show up on the balance sheet. But if you build your brand from scratch through marketing, through great customer service, that brand doesn't show up on the balance sheet. But brand is an incredible hidden asset that allows companies or individuals to generate returns, great returns on its effort. For example, picture this. If Coca-Cola comes up with a new drink, it's going to sell a lot more of that drink than if you and I came up with a new drink at home and tried to sell it. Why? Because people trust Coca-Cola and people are willing to try a new product that Coca-Cola releases. But in addition to the brand, which brings me to another hidden asset, is distribution. Coca-Cola, for example, already has relationships and distribution network with all of these retailers. And when it comes up with a new product, it can simply utilize that distribution, which, by the way, doesn't show up on the balance sheet again, in order to distribute the product. You and I don't have distribution. Our product can be superior to Coca-Cola, but it doesn't matter because we don't have the distribution. And as a result, not only do we get fewer sales, it would actually cost us a lot more to bring this new product to market. Management and board of directors. We don't think too much of this, but it's very important. And it's another thing that doesn't show up on the balance sheet. You see, some managers or some board of directors can have particular relationships, or they can have a past successes which establishes a particular relationships. How many times did you get involved in a company and it seems like they can just come up with a new product and it automatically becomes successful? For example, let's think about one of the companies that I own and talk about on this channel, which is Voxtur. And by the way, if you're new to this channel and you haven't had a chance to see my video series on Voxtur, it's 11 video series and it's available in the playlist. So picture Voxtur, which is in the real estate space. Both Jim and Gary, who have been in the real estate appraisal title business for years, they have very long-standing relationships with all the major banks in the United States. When they acquired Anow, which is an appraisal platform, they were able to take that platform and immediately sell it to the biggest banks in the United States. The founder of Anow, who is Marty Haldane, didn't have those relationships, and he would have never been able to make Anow successful on his own because, number one, he didn't have the track record, he didn't have the relationships that Jim and Gary had, and as a result of this, he would have never been able to make his company such a success. But because he brought his company to Voxtur, Gary and Jim were able to take his invention and literally make it what is becoming the standard in the appraisal industry. Strategic investors. We don't think too much about that. Sometimes companies will bring on strategic investors, and you and I, we don't see any difference from, for us, it's like, let's say there's 100 million shares out there, and we don't really care who those shares are owned by. It doesn't differentiate on the balance sheet if a particular 10 million shares is owned by this individual or that individual, but who owns those shares can make a huge difference for the company's success. Because if the particular investor is a person with an incredible track record or some kind of relationships, that strategic investor can make the difference between the company being a huge success or a flop just because of the person's presence. In summary, next time it drives us crazy that we see a person or a company succeed no matter what, no matter how good or bad their product is, let's think a little bit deeper of why this success was able to happen, why people are able to buy or consume the product, even though there might be a better competing product out there. A lot of times it might be simply because of the hidden assets such as status, social media following, distribution, great brand, management with connections, strategic investor. All of those things make a huge difference in the success or failure of a person or a bigger enterprise. With that being said, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoy this content, I would greatly appreciate if you subscribe to this channel, click the notification button, like that video, and continue watching more of my videos. Thank you for watching.